video, I'm going to build a 4x4 truss beam table for our outside dining area. I started with reclaimed wood from an old kitchen table project that I did several videos ago. It's just plain old 2x6 pine from Home Depot. So I started by planing it, making sure these boards were nice and straight and even. As you can see, after one pass, the shop back gets extremely full. I made several passes through the planer to make sure the boards were nice and even. Probably about 4. Next was cutting the 4x4 that made up the main frame of the table. I got the plans from Anna White's website, which I posted a link in the description below. I pretty much followed them as closely as possible, but made the table longer by about 10 inches to fit our exact needs. I also added some additional strengthening because I just don't think pocket holes are strong enough for a table this size. So some advice: this is where you want to spend most of your time cutting and measuring and just fitting these pieces so you have a nice finish. This is really the bulk of the more difficult work. Everything else after this is very simple. Again, the plans call for attachment of the 4x4s and joining the 4x4s with pocket holes. I did that, quickly realized that it wasn't going to be strong enough to my liking, so I added an extra step, which I'll show you a little bit later. As you can see, I'm typically building furniture, doing things with my kids around playing. I think it's important for them to see how things like this get done and the type of effort that goes into them. Also had my wife help me with some of the joining of the pieces and just an extra set of hands. So it's one thing you'll see in most of my videos. I do a lot of these being a father of 3 and working a full-time job, so really I have to be multitasking when doing these projects. The upright was attached with just some wood screws and glue. Again, you're going to want to spend time to make sure that you measure and cut accordingly, following the plans on Anna White's site to the T. One thing you'll notice is I do drill a pilot hole to prevent the wood from cracking, but otherwise a pretty straightforward operation here. After I do the first side, I work on the second side and then do a mock-up of what the table will look like with the top that will go on it. These are the boards that we milled earlier, and they just lay nicely on the table like so. Okay, as much as I am a fan of pocket holes, I don't actually believe that the pocket hole screws are going to be sturdy enough to hold the weight of the table. So to save myself from future embarrassment, I'm going to go ahead and reinforce this with a 5/16 lag screw. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to countersink it about halfway down this 4x4 over here actually, and then put the lag bolt through to add extra reinforcement. As you can see, the bolt is countersunk and is now providing extra rigidity and strength onto the others. Okay, so now that these are done, the next thing I'm going to do to strengthen this table is to put a 1/2-inch oak dowel like so. I'm going to use a 1/2-inch drill bit to drill here in the middle, and then stick a wooden dowel through. This is kind of a homemade dowel from a 1/2-inch oak rod. Obviously put some glue in it and hammer it home, and then just sand it flush. Let's do it. Alright, so I went most of the way down, so we should have a little bit of stick out. Not too much. Alright, let's get the glue. So all we're going to do is dip the end. And the glue should push.
Not so much.
Yeah. The glue itself should squeeze out.
We're going to take the hammer and just hammer it in.
Can you get the tissue?
And then after it's not that wet.
Okay. There we go. Should have bottomed out. Let's give it a closer look. Once we sand that all in place, it should be good to go. We'll do that on the other side, as well as on the legs here. Alright, same thing on the legs. I've finished the table base. Put the dowels in, like you saw. I also put some wood putty that I'm going to sand off in a second. But I also built some benches, and the benches more or less are the exact same design. Some subtle differences. One, there isn't a second 4x4 here at the top. Instead, there are two 2x4s that are laid out like so. I also did some strengthening here. And I also put dowels in the feet, like I did here. I've yet to sand it. I will say there was quite a bit of sanding on this project. And after the sanding, I decided that, or I didn't decide, my wife decided that she wanted the base white. So I went ahead and spray painted the base of this white using some Rust-Oleum spray paint. Cut to the time lapse. Okay, so there's been quite a lot that's been done to the table since the last shot. I moved it kind of to where its final resting place will be. And I also took those boards that I planed and milled earlier and attached them to the table frame using some screws. These screws to be exact. So the reason that I haven't been filming is actually because I caught a little bug, and as you could hear from my voice, I'm still recovering. But here it is. Got everything lined up. I did leverage some of the old pocket holes that were on this table before. If you recall, this is reclaimed wood from an old kitchen table project I had. I'll link the video to that project, but it did have pocket holes underneath, as you can see, and I leveraged some of those holes for this, just to make it more manageable. So I basically attached one of these planks to another, and I did that a few times, and then I just simply screwed it onto the frame, and I'm going to be covering this with some wood putty and also filling the knots with epoxy. So for now, I next step in this project is attaching the breadboard part, I guess is what it's called, of the table. So this will complete the top, and then I'll just sand everything down to make it fit nicely. Now it's time to wood fill all the little screw holes. Adding just a little bit of water because I like working with the putty when it's a little bit more malleable and so we have a random orbital sander, and now it's just time to sand all the excess putty away. So we'll do that now. after I'm done sanding, I begin with my staining process. Basically, I start with a foam brush and spread out the stain across the surface, and then after I'm done saturating all the pieces that I want stained, I go back with a shop towel or a rag and really wipe up all the excess stain. After this, I begin the finishing process with polyurethane. I start by putting on a heavy first coat, and after the first coat dries fully, I then go back and wet sand with a 220 grit sanding block and just a spray bottle. And it's a very light sanding. I just take all the rough edges off. You can see I'm using my hands to feel out for any rough spots. After all the spots are smooth, I then go back and I do the final coat of poly, which is a very light coat, a second coat that's very light. Now, if in the past I've seen that I've had to do multiple coats after the first original coat, but I noticed that if I do a thick original first coat, that typically just one additional coat will do. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like button below. If you like this content, do check out the other videos on this channel, and also subscribe. I have a lot more content coming up. I mentioned it in the Barrett Jackson video that I do have a surprise project that I'll be working on. So I'll be doing the reveal in the next video. So stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next project.